Michael and Wilson had shared years of friendship, prosperity, and countless memories. Their bond seemed unbreakable, much like a fine string that can only stretch so far. That limit was tested by Tessy, a stunning and smart orphan who enchanted both men. Her tragic past had not been easy. Losing her parents at a young age left her struggling for stability. When she crossed paths with Michael and Wilson, their wealth and kindness impressed her. Yet, it was Michael who truly captured her heart. His charm, humor, and genuine warmth drew her in, leading her to fall deeply in love with him. Michael, equally captivated, envisioned a future with Tessy. Their connection grew stronger, but Wilson, who harbored feelings for Tessy, found himself overshadowed by their blossoming romance. Tessy's life had been a series of hardships. Orphaned early, she had to navigate a world that was often unkind. Her encounter with Michael and Wilson was a bright spot amidst her struggles. Michael's charisma stood out, making Tessy's heart race whenever she was near him. She admired not just his wealth but his kindness and humor, which made her feel cherished for the first time in a long while. Their growing affection was mutual, and Michael began dreaming of a life together. They imagined a future filled with love and happiness. However, Wilson, despite his friendship with Michael, was also drawn to Tessy. His feelings of jealousy grew as he saw Tessy and Michael's relationship deepen. This unspoken competition created a rift in their friendship. Wilson's heartache over Tessy's choice was profound. He was tormented by the love he felt for her and the realization that she had chosen Michael. The growing jealousy began to consume him. Wilson tried to mask his pain, but it gnawed at him as he observed Tessy and Michael's relationship flourish. The more he witnessed their love, the more his bitterness festered. His emotions were a tumultuous mix of envy and sorrow. One fateful night, Tessy, on her way to a dinner date with Michael, was involved in a tragic car accident. The accident occurred in a remote area, leaving Tessy unconscious and vulnerable. Wilson, who stumbled upon the scene, was confronted with a moral dilemma. His jealousy and desperation clouded his judgment, leading to a drastic and unethical decision that would alter their lives forever. Upon discovering Tessy, Wilson realized she had lost her memory due to the accident. In a moment of selfish desperation and consumed by his longing for Tessy, he made a dark and irreversible choice. He decided to take Tessy far away, to a distant state, and construct a new life for her. Wilson fabricated a false identity for Tessy, convincing her that her name was Mirabelle and that they were married. He hoped to erase any trace of Michael from her mind. This decision was driven by his deep-seated jealousy and desire for Tessy, but it was a betrayal of the trust that had once existed between them. Wilson's guilt was masked by his actions, and he convinced himself that he was offering Tessy a chance at a fresh start, even though it came at a great moral cost. Michael's search for Tessy became an all-consuming quest. Her sudden disappearance left him in a state of constant worry and despair. He scoured every part of the city, hoping to find any clue about her whereabouts. Michael filed missing person reports, enlisted the help of the police, and questioned anyone who might have seen her. Each day without Tessy felt like an eternity. Michael's heart ached with the hope that she would return, yet every night, he was plagued by the fear that he might never see her again. The uncertainty of her fate weighed heavily on him. His once bright future with Tessy seemed to be slipping through his fingers, leaving him to grapple with a profound sense of loss and helplessness. As the months passed, Tessy, now living under the false identity of Mirabelle, settled into a new life with Wilson. She had no recollection of her past or the life she had shared with Michael. Wilson had constructed an elaborate web of lies, and Tessy, disoriented by her memory loss, trusted him fully. Though Wilson played the role of a loving husband, his guilt and the weight of his deception were ever present. Tessy tried to adapt to her new reality, but a vague sense of something being amiss lingered in her mind. Her life with Wilson was marked by a constant, unspoken tension, as the truth of her past remained buried. The emotional complexity of their situation created an undercurrent of discomfort in what was meant to be a fresh start. The facade of their life began to unravel over time. The tension between Tessy and Wilson grew as their interactions became increasingly strained. Wilson's guilt and frustration reached a boiling point, leading to frequent arguments. During one particularly intense quarrel, Wilson's anger erupted, and he struck Tessy, causing her to fall to the floor. The sudden violence triggered a significant reaction in Tessy's mind. Fragments of her lost memories began to resurface with startling clarity. She recalled Michael, their love, and the events leading up to her accident. As Tessy lay there, she began to piece together the truth of her past, realizing the depth of the deception she had been subjected to. This revelation ignited a determination within her to reclaim her life and seek out the man she truly loved. With her memory restored, Tessy decided not to confront Wilson immediately. She wanted to avoid escalating the situation further and instead chose to plan her escape. While Wilson was away at work, Tessy packed her belongings quietly, making sure not to alert him to her intentions. She traveled back to Lagos with a sense of purpose and hope. Her journey was fueled by a desire to find Michael and make things right. When Tessy finally arrived at Michael's doorstep, he was initially shocked and overwhelmed by her unexpected return. The sight of Tessy, after such a long and painful separation, stirred a whirlwind of emotions in Michael. He was confronted with the reality of her return and the complex emotions it stirred. Michael's reaction to Tessy's return was a mixture of anger and heartbreak. He was filled with questions and hurt, demanding answers for her sudden disappearance. His emotions were raw as he confronted Tessy about why she had left without a word. With tears streaming down her face, Tessy recounted the entire ordeal, how she had been in an accident, lost her memory, and was taken away by Wilson. She explained the fabricated marriage and the life Wilson had forced upon her. Michael listened, his anger slowly transforming into understanding. The pain of the betrayal and the shock of Tessy's ordeal were evident, but he also saw the depth of her love and the struggle she had endured. This revelation set the stage for healing and reconciliation. Michael's initial anger towards Tessy shifted towards Wilson, whom he blamed for the cruel deception. Michael was driven by a desire for justice, wanting Wilson to face consequences for his actions. However, Tessy, still deeply in love with Michael, intervened. She urged him to let go of thoughts of revenge, emphasizing that holding on to anger would not mend the past. Her plea for compassion and focus on their future together resonated with Michael. He reluctantly agreed to set aside his desire for retribution, choosing instead to concentrate on rebuilding their relationship. Tessy's insight helped guide Michael toward forgiveness, and their focus shifted to healing and moving forward together. Their love, tested by trials and betrayal, became a source of strength as they looked toward a hopeful future. Michael and Tessy's reunion marked the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. Despite the pain and betrayal, they chose to forgive Wilson. They recognized that even though his actions were born from jealousy, he was still a person who had once been their friend. Wilson approached them with deep remorse, admitting his wrongdoing and pleading for forgiveness. His sincerity and vulnerability struck a chord with both Michael and Tessy. They chose to accept his apology, understanding the complexity of human emotions and the capacity for forgiveness. In an act of grace, Michael invited Wilson to be his best man at their wedding. This gesture symbolized a hopeful resolution and the restoration of their friendship. The wedding day was a testament to their ability to move past the betrayal and embrace a future filled with love and reconciliation. On their wedding day, Michael and Tessy stood together, surrounded by loved ones, with Wilson by Michael's side as his best man. The ceremony was a symbol of overcoming the past and celebrating new beginnings. The pain and turmoil that had once marked their lives seemed to dissolve in the joy of the moment.